And of course, you wouldn't know it according to the reports of the mainstream media, but I believe the most persecuted faith in the world today is the Christian faith. There are places all over the world. I mean, there are hundreds of millions of Christians who are living under threat of violence right now because they live their faith. So don't believe that it can't happen here. Because if it can happen anywhere, then it can happen anywhere else. And I think that we're living through a time where we have the biggest opponents of religious liberty and people of faith running for office that we have seen anywhere in my life. And I don't like to say that, and I wish that it weren't so, but you just have to look at the record. I want to talk a little bit about that record, but when we went and visited the Billy Graham Library today, and we went and saw his gravesite, you know what really jumped out at me? Is that over 50 years, Republican or Democrat, Billy Graham advised presidents, he prayed with presidents, he worked with presidents, because while we might disagree about things like tax policy, or we might disagree about things like which regulations are going to best promote the public safety, we all agreed that people of faith deserve to have a place and a voice in this country, and that has changed. Now, let's just run through a number of ways in which the Kamala Harris administration has been a chief opponent of freedom of conscience, of free speech, and of religious liberty in this country. Number one, Kamala Harris, despite the fact that she says that she stands for working people, despite the fact that, her running mate has this slogan, "We believe in America that people ought to mind their own damn business," both of them pursued policies that would have people fired for refusing to take the COVID vaccine shot. Remember that? And there are a lot of people, a lot of military veterans, a lot of nurses in our hospitals at a time of a terrible healthcare and hospital shortage, a lot of workers, millions of them across this country who felt the pressure of Kamala Harris's war on freedom of conscience and on bodily autonomy when it came to that vaccine. So, this is not an abstraction. This is not just a difference of what two candidates are proposing. This is a difference between two candidates and their records. Because whether you believe that you should take the COVID vaccine or not, Donald Trump and I believe that is your decision, and you shouldn't be fired for making a decision according to your conscience. Now, I believe that the Republican Party is the pro-life party. We're going to talk a little bit more about freedom of conscience. Now, we're the pro-life party because we believe that every life is precious from the moment of beginning until the moment of natural death. That is our belief as Republicans. And by the way, we're going to have disagreements from time to time about how best to advocate for all of the most vulnerable people in our society, but I think that is a fundamental principle of the Republican Party, and it will stay that way. But Kamala Harris is not just disagreeing with us on the particulars of public policy. She is trying to throw people in prison who share our values for having the audacity to advocate for those values in the public space. Now, we saw a couple of years ago a pro-life Catholic father of 7 treated like a common thug in his own home for daring to go out and advocate for the unborn. And I think our message to Kamala Harris is, look, we welcome disagreement on the question of how best to protect life. We can have that debate, but we can only have the debate if we have a president who believes in the First Amendment. We shouldn't be throwing anybody in jail for pro-life advocacy. We ought to be celebrating their exercise